You may or may not have heard this story before, but I'm pretty sure we have told it before. But it's worth telling again because it just emphasizes the danger of sharing intelligence with the Trump White House, especially even more for the fact that you've now got people like Tulsi Gabbard in charge of the USA Information Network and has been openly pro-Syria and pro-Russia at times. So that is incredibly worrying. But for those of you who don't know the story, we had, and that's the UK, we had an informant in ISIS. So we were getting a lot of information for what was going on here. And we told Trump that we had this informant in ISIS and that what was going on, and that we were willing to help share that information with the US. The US then shared this information to Russia, thanks to Trump, after had a meeting with a Russian diplomat, who then shared this information to the Kremlin. The Kremlin then shared this information to Iran, and then Iran then passed this information on to ISIS, and then we lost that contact. Like, they were brown bread. So sharing intelligence is an important factor between allies. If you cannot trust to share intelligence between your allies and give each other intelligence so that you know what's going on, then this damages your defensive capabilities quite significantly. And already we've seen that Trump has cut off any intelligence sharing with Ukraine. So that's a big issue for them at the moment, but it is including us as well, because last time we lost quite an informant in ISIS. And now we just had a committee hearing yesterday of ex-ambassadors warning about sharing intelligence with the US. So this is hugely important on this. But before we get into this, like I say, please do remember to click the like, share, and of course the subscribe button if you are new. Down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. Ex-ambassadors warn now of sharing intelligence with the US. So 4 former British ambassadors to the United States have now expressed concern about the future of intelligence sharing with the US following the re-election of Donald Trump. So David Manning, who served as ambassador between 2003 and 2007, told the parliamentary committee that some of Trump's appointees had a, quote, strange track records, which would create a problem on the intelligence front. Who's referring to Tulsi Gabbard. Dame Karen Pierce, who only just left the role last month, said that intelligence sharing would become and continue even at the top level, but there might things that we might wish to be very circumspect about. Nigel Sheinwald, ambassador from 2007 to 2012, said that the relationship would be very trickier to handle than probably now at any other time. He said that some of the people that Trump had appointed had led to intelligence and security could prevent difficulties in the terms of their views and views of now of their co-cooperation. He did not specify who he was referring to. However, concerns had been raised about the US president's pick to be his director of national intelligence. Of course, he's referring to Tulsi Gabbard. Because as it was pointed out here, as they say here, Tulsi Gabbard previously echoed Russia's justification for invading Ukraine, and at her appointment, the role was now welcomed by the Russian state media. Earlier this year, Louis Larkin, a retired American diplomat, told the BBC that Gabbard's very dubious judgment could give allies reason to question how safe it is to share intelligence with the US. During a confirmation hearing with US senators, Gabbard dismissed her suggestions that she was a Putin puppet as lies and smears. The ambassador's warnings came now during an evidence session with the House of Lords International Relations Defense Committee, which heard from 4 former British US diplomats to the US. Sir David told peers that if the UK wanted to be the quote go-to ally for the United States, it would have had something to offer. He said the UK's military resources were, of course, stretched, and the defence card was not the ace that it once was. Lord Somers said the UK was still very, very good at intelligence and security, and asked if that would still play a role in the US-UK relationship. David said the question of intelligence sharing was going to be far more difficult to approach. He said, clearly you have some Trump supporters in these key jobs who have a very strange track record. They have very strange things about said strange things about NATO allies and the NATO alliance. And you have people in the administration who seem to be looking for ways to appease Russia. Then you have a problem on the intelligence front. This is the big question mark of how the special relationship is now sustained during the Trump administration. Dame Karen also said the way that the US-UK relationship helping each other was very unique, saying that there is an interlopability that you just do not find with any other ally. Asked whether this it would last under the Trump's presidency, she replied, "The intelligence part of the relationship is so viable it will last, even if, as David was explaining, at the top level, there might be things that we might wish to be a bit circumspect about." So, as they are saying here, you can clearly see it. We have to be careful about our intelligence sharing and what we are sharing. We have to be careful. We can't now play with an open hand. We have to hold our cards close to the chest about what information we have and what information we should be sharing with the US. Like, this is massively important. But it just goes to show you how important this is to the US as well, that we have these intelligence capabilities. Nigel said that the nature of at least the people at the top of the US intelligence and security apparatus today, the ones chosen by Trump, I think that might present some difficulties in terms of their views of us and the views of the cooperation. This is going to be trickier to handle than probably at any other time. Peter Westmont, who was in Washington between 2012 and 2016, said the problem might be causing a change of culture in the US government institutions, adding that a lot of very good people are now being thrown out because they do not pass the loyalty test. I mean, it says it all. They're losing so many good people because they're not passing the loyalty test. I mean, hey, maybe we should be recruiting some of those people. Maybe we should. However, he also told the committee that it was not unheard of for intelligence to be occasionally be held back from allies, even when you have the most perfect working political relationship. There are moments when, because of risk of an inadvertent leak to a journalist or something more specific of source of information, for example, it is held back. So, yeah, very worrying. Very worrying indeed on that front. And like I say, that story that I told you at the beginning about that ISIS contact we had, because Donald Trump shared it with the Russians, who shared it with Iran, who told ISIS. And now you've got people like Tulsi Gabbard in there, Pete Hegseth. Because that's who they're talking about. They don't say the names, but if you know anything about we've been following all that stuff, you know who they're talking about. You know who they're referring to. Not only that, but I don't know if people have also seen the New Zealand has just fired one of their high commissioners over here because he used the Churchill quote about Chamberlain saying, you know, your choice was being, you know, something in dishonor, and you have chosen dishonor, and yet you will have war. And like I say, all these people I've seen in a lot of my videos talking about Ukraine very recently, crowing about the fact, oh, there's going to be a peace agreement. There's going to be a peace agreement. How wrong you are. We still don't know what that peace looks like. Because the Ukrainians could just turn around and just go no. The Russians could just turn around and just go no. Because the Russians have been constantly asking for some insane stuff throughout this war. So there is no guarantee that this peace is going to work or even last. And I don't think this is going to be completely break down when it goes to negotiations. Because Ukraine wants one thing, US wants one thing, and Russia wants just something completely and absolutely crazy. And oh boy, are they going to push that during these negotiations. They are going to push for as much as they want. And that's when Ukraine's going to turn around and just go, how is that acceptable? How are we meant to accept that? And Donald Trump will say, well, no, you have to accept it. There's peace. Constantly, people should be asking, what is the price of peace? But yeah, there you go. So anyway, on that front, thank you very much as always for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.